What is the most inhumane event that you can think of? There's very many occurrences, but possibly one that comes to mind is the Holocaust. Now, the Holocaust is something that has been of deep interest to me for many years. Ever since I was about 12, it's something that I've read pretty extensively on. I will admit that this subject is something that's really not fun to think about. It's something that is better to just put out of your mind, to be indifferent to. In his speech, Elie Wiesel speaks very powerfully about indifference. I'm going to read to you a brief excerpt from this speech. It says, "In a way, to be indifferent to that suffering is what makes the human being inhuman. Indifference, after all, is more dangerous than anger and hatred. Anger can at times be creative. One can write a great poem, a great symphony, or do something special for the sake of humanity because one is angry at the injustice that one witnesses. Indifference is not a response, and therefore indifference is always the friend of the enemy, for it benefits the aggressor." Today I'm going to tell you a little bit of the background of this speech, about Elie Wiesel, and about a man who saw humanity at its lowest and still managed to give us hope for the future. Now, this speech was given April 12, 1999 at the White House as a part of a series called Millennium Evenings. According to the website, Millennium Evenings endeavored to herald the new century by honoring the past and imagining the future. Also on the website, it quotes and speaks about Elie Wiesel, saying that he has used his talents as an author to promote action against indifference to human atrocities and suffering, speaking to help us understand the need for every individual to exercise their moral conscience in the face of injustice. So who was this man, and why did he feel so passionately about this? Elie Wiesel was a Jew, born September 30th, 1928, in the small town of Sighet, Romania. He was a deeply studious and dutiful child. From his father, he gained a deep sense of humanist and practical values, while from his mother, a dutiful religious passion. By 1944, though, the world had become engulfed in war, and at the age of 16, Elie and his whole family were deported to Auschwitz and various other camps, along with 6 million other people in the world. In 1945, he became liberated, but not before his mother, father, and a sister had died in the camps. Once he was released, he decided to make a vow that he would not speak a word of anything he had seen or heard while in the camps. In his book, Ted Estes quotes Wiesel talking about this silence, saying that he believed it would be long enough to see clearly, to learn to listen to the voices crying inside of his own, to regain possession of memory, and to unite the language of men with the silence of the dead. By 1954, Wiesel looked in the mirror and saw change in his face and in the world. He decided that anyone who sees change has a responsibility to speak about it. So what he decided was he was going to become a writer. He knew at that moment, whenever he saw his face in the mirror, that his destiny was going to change. Wiesel was not just a survivor. Instead, he triumphed. He refused to be robbed of his life, and he became an author, a professor, an activist, and a messenger. Though Ted Estes, in the aforementioned book, says that he is hauntingly silent on any actual details of the Holocaust, instead, Wiesel chose to write about the humanity that still managed to infiltrate such a gruesome setting. Wiesel talked about the people, about the men and the women and the children that he saw. The world had taken their lives, but in his writing, Wiesel restored what was taken from them. At the Holocaust Memorial Museum dedication, Wiesel was quoted summing up his vision in one sentence, saying, "For the dead and the living we must bear witness, for not only are we responsible for the memories of the dead, we are also responsible for what we do with those memories." Now, Wiesel didn't try to answer questions. Instead, he just asked them. In an interview with Oprah, he says, "The moment we have answers, there is no dialogue. Questions unite people, but answers divide them." Wiesel's legacy was not just one of word, but of deed also. The Los Angeles Times called him the most important Jew in America. He wrote 40 books, 20 which were translated into 25 different languages, just one of which sold 300,000 copies in America alone. He received 90 honorary degrees and 30 awards and honors, including a knighthood, a Congressional Gold Medal, and the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1986, he and his wife formed the Elie Wiesel Foundation for Humanity, which, according to its website, its mission is rooted in the memory of the Holocaust to combat indifference, intolerance, and injustice through international dialogue and youth-focused programs that promote acceptance, understanding, and equality. Wiesel also did not just fight for the Jews. He fought for all. In the same interview with Oprah, he said, "The least I can do is show victims that they are not alone. When I went to Cambodia, journalists asked me, 'What are you doing here? This is not a Jewish tragedy.' And he said, 'When I needed help, no one came. That is why I'm here.'" The Journal of Education quotes him talking about his duty as a survivor. He said that he is duty-bound to justify each moment of his life as a survivor, holding fast to the conviction that we must give truth a name and force man to look upon it. Elie held fast to what he said in his speech, living a life of profound fear, yet extraordinary hope. I hope today you've learned a little bit more about who Elie Wiesel was, about why he was so passionate about indifference, and about his legacy. I'd encourage you to read the rest of his speech, or maybe a book or two of his. But if nothing else, remember his words, that there may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest.